What happens when a respected actor sits down for what should be a simple interview, only to face an aggressive host determined to tear him down on live television? It only took 15 seconds of condescending questions for one of Britain's most beloved stars to completely lose his patience and walk off set, leaving the host scrambling to save face in front of millions of viewers. This is the exclusive inside story of the most dramatic television meltdown that happened right before our eyes. And trust me, you need to hear every shocking detail of how it all went wrong. Tom Hardy had arrived at the studio that evening in good spirits. The acclaimed actor was there to promote his latest film, expecting the usual promotional chat about his career and upcoming projects. He settled into the guest chair across from Piers, adjusting his jacket and offering a polite smile to the cameras as the show's dramatic theme music faded out. "Welcome back to the show," Piers began, his trademark smirk already forming. "I'm here with Tom Hardy, the actor who thinks he's too cool for Hollywood interviews." The comment landed like a slap. Tom's eyebrows raised slightly, but he kept his composure. "I'm sorry, what was that supposed to mean?" "Oh, come on, Tom. Everyone knows you hate doing press. You've got that whole mysterious, brooding thing down to an art form, haven't you?" Piers leaned forward, clearly enjoying himself already. "I'm here, aren't I?" Tom replied simply, his voice remaining level despite the obvious provocation. But Piers wasn't finished. He shuffled through his notes with theatrical flair, making sure the cameras caught every movement. "Yes, you are here. Reluctantly, I'm sure. Tell me, is it true that you demanded your publicist limit this interview to exactly 10 minutes? The studio audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats. This wasn't the warm, promotional chat they'd expected to witness. "That's not accurate," Tom said, his jaw tightening just slightly. "I agreed to come on your show to talk about my work. That's what I'm here to do." "Your work, right?" Piers flipped through more papers, drawing out the tension. "Let's talk about your latest film then. Critics are calling it pretentious. Some are even saying you're only taking these artsy roles because you can't handle big blockbusters anymore. What's your response to that?" The question hung in the air like poison. Tom stared at Piers for a long moment, processing what he just heard. Who exactly is saying that? "Well, there are reports." "Reports from who?" Tom's voice had an edge now. "Because that sounds like something you just made up to create drama." Piers chuckled, the sound grating and artificial. "I'm just asking the tough questions, Tom. That's what good journalists do." "Good journalists cite their sources," Tom shot back immediately. "They don't invent controversies for entertainment." The host's smile faltered for just a second before returning full force. "You seem defensive. Are you saying there's no truth to the criticism of your recent career choices?" "I'm saying your question is based on made-up nonsense," Tom replied, his patience clearly wearing thin. "If you want to have a real conversation about my work, I'm happy to do that. But I'm not going to sit here and respond to fictional attacks." Piers leaned back in his chair, clearly relishing the conflict he'd created. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. You can dish it out in your tough guy roles, but you can't take a little criticism in real life?" The audience gasped audibly. Even the camera operator seemed surprised by the host's aggressive approach. Tom's hands gripped the arms of his chair, his knuckles whitening slightly. "A little criticism?" Tom's voice was dangerously quiet now. "You invited me here under false pretenses. You told my team this would be about the film, about the craft of acting. Instead, you're sitting there making up stories and attacking me personally for no reason." "I'm doing my job," Piers insisted, his voice rising. "I'm not here to throw you softball questions like every other interviewer. I'm here to get real answers." "Real answers to fake questions?" Tom stood up slightly, then caught himself and sat back down. "This isn't journalism. This is tabloid garbage disguised as an interview." The tension in the studio was thick enough to cut. Crew members exchanged worried glances while Piers pressed on, seemingly oblivious to how badly this was going. "So now I'm tabloid garbage? That's rich, coming from someone who built his career playing violent characters and now wants to lecture people about morality." Tom's face darkened. "What does that even mean?" "You know exactly what it means. You make millions playing thugs and criminals, then you want to act like you're some kind of artistic genius. Which is it, Tom? Are you an action star, or are you Laurence Olivier?" The question was designed to wound, and it hit its mark. Tom looked directly into the camera, then back at Piers, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "You know what? I think we're done here." But Piers wasn't about to let his guest escape that easily. The host's eyes lit up with the kind of predatory gleam that comes from smelling blood in the water. This was exactly the kind of television gold that his producers live for, and he was going to milk every second of it. "Oh no, you don't get to just walk away," Piers said, his voice taking on a mocking tone. "We're live on television, Tom. You can't just storm off like a child having a tantrum." Tom slowly turned back to face the host, his expression a mixture of disbelief and controlled anger. "A tantrum? You spend the last 10 minutes attacking me with made-up stories, questioning my integrity, and now you want to call me childish?" "I'm calling it like I see it," Piers replied with a shrug, playing to the cameras. "You came on my show, you agreed to answer questions, and now when things get a little challenging, you want to run away." The actor took a deep breath, clearly trying to maintain his composure. "Challenging questions are fine. I welcome them. But what you're doing isn't journalism. It's bullying disguised as entertainment." Piers laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the studio. "Bullying? Really? This is what passes for bullying in your world? Having to answer a few tough questions?" "Tough questions based on lies," Tom shot back immediately. "You haven't asked me one legitimate question since I sat down. Everything has been designed to provoke and humiliate." The host leaned forward again, his smirk growing wider. "Maybe that says more about you than it does about me. Maybe the real problem is that you can't handle being questioned by someone who isn't going to kiss your feet." Tom's hands clenched into fists at his sides. "This has nothing to do with my ego and everything to do with your complete lack of professionalism." "Professionalism?" Piers scoffed. "I'm the one being professional here. I'm doing my job, asking the questions that my viewers want answered. You're the one getting emotional and defensive. Your viewers want to see you tear people down for sport?" Tom's voice was rising now, his famous control finally starting to crack. "Is that really what television has become?" The studio audience was completely silent, watching this train wreck unfold in real time. Some looked uncomfortable. Others seemed fascinated by the raw conflict playing out before them. "Television has always been about giving people what they want to see," Piers replied smoothly. "And right now, they want to see if the tough guy actor can handle a real confrontation." Tom stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "You want a real confrontation? Fine, let's have one. You're a failed journalist who makes his living humiliating guests on live television because you don't have the talent to create anything worthwhile yourself." The words hit Piers like physical blows. His smug expression wavered for the first time since the interview began. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," Tom continued, his voice growing stronger. "You hide behind this persona of being the tough interviewer, but really you're just a bully who preys on people when they're trying to be polite and professional." Piers tried to regain control, his voice taking on a warning tone. "I think you need to be very careful about what you say next, Tom." "Or what? You'll ask me more fake questions? Make up more stories about my career?" Tom took a step closer to the host's desk. "You know what the real tragedy is here? You actually had the chance to have an interesting conversation tonight. You could have asked me about the craft, about the challenges of the role, about working with the other actors. Instead, you chose to turn it into this circus." The host was clearly rattled now, but he wasn't backing down. "This is my show, and I'll run it however I see fit." "And that's exactly the problem," Tom replied. "You think having a show gives you the right to treat people like garbage. Well, I've got news for you. It doesn't." Piers stood up behind his desk, his face flushing red. "You need to sit down and finish this interview like a professional, or I'll have security escort you out." Tom laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Security? Are you serious right now? You're gonna have me thrown out because I won't let you abuse me on live television?" "I'm trying to do a show here," Piers said through gritted teeth. "You're making this impossible." "I'm making this impossible?" Tom's voice was incredulous. "You started this interview by calling me too cool for Hollywood. You made up quotes from critics. You questioned my integrity and my career choices. You did everything possible to create conflict, and now you're angry that I'm not playing along?" The cameras captured every moment of the host's growing desperation. This wasn't going according to his usual script. Guests were supposed to get flustered and defensive, not turn the tables and call him out so directly. "Fine," Piers said finally, his voice strained. "If you want to leave, then leave. But don't expect to be invited back." Tom walked toward the edge of the set, then turned back one final time. "You know what the saddest part is? I actually used to respect your work. Years ago, you did real journalism. You asked tough questions that mattered. Now look at you." And with that devastating final blow, Tom Hardy walked off the set, leaving Piers Morgan standing alone behind his desk. His face, a mask of barely controlled rage and humiliation, while millions of viewers watched his credibility crumble in real time.